Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rem and Sam podcast. Got a little summer league action on in the background right now. Welcome back to NBA. Thank goodness. It was getting dark there for a second. Shout out to the WNBA for keeping us afloat there for a little bit. And make no mistake, the WNBA, there's another game on later tonight, but the NBA is back. The Grizzlies and the Sixers are locked in a heated battle right now out in Utah. No Zach Edey tonight, though, for the Grizzlies. They did play last night, so an overtime game as well too. So they do have the excuse of the the back-to-back for Zach Edey, but very, very, very early on in his career, starting the load management pause. And I don't even think that they don't even might not even need to do it with Zach Edey as much as we thought. The man looks good. I don't know what happened with Zach Edey. He's slimmed down. I don't know if he's hit the treadmill or Ozempic or what happened, but Zach Edey is looking very, very slim right now for the Memphis Grizzlies. Him and Jaren Jackson. It could be a fun pick, a fun, interesting move. I know they were really looking for getting a center in the offseason anyway. So getting Edey off the board at number 9 in the draft, maybe a little bit of a gamble, but hey, I think in the draft that in the board that we had, I think it was a good pick. And also Cam Spencer looking nice for the Grizzlies tonight. I've already got a lot, already been only a couple of summer league action, a couple of summer league games so far, and I've already got a ton of stuff that I can't wait to talk about with Sam. I mostly because we had as you guys all know, a Bronny James appearance in summer league. Bronny James, was it opening up summer league, or was there one other game before that? To me it was the first game of summer league. It was the first game that I was locked in on. Shout out Bronny, getting the NBA career underway. And yeah, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. We'll have more to talk about with Summer League with Sam this weekend. Team USA has started practices. I'm pretty sure they're out in Vegas, right? Doing the practices ahead of the Olympics here, about to start in a couple weeks or so. So, the clips and the highlights of the practices have started to roll out for that. And that's going to be super exciting to talk about as well too. But we do have to start this off with a little Rem and Sam investigates, a little Rem and Sam journalism, because allegedly we had a Hall of Famer eat at the restaurant today for lunch. But to be honest, a football Hall of Famer, I should clarify what sport, a football Hall of Famer was at the restaurant today, but I had never heard of this guy before. And, I do like to consider I do feel like I know quite a few guys, watched a couple of games, a lot of Madden, collecting the football cards. Like, I do feel like I know a lot of names, but I just have never heard of this guy's name before. And the server was like, hey, did you know that guy, after he had left, was like, hey, did you know that guy was going into the Hall of Fame? And I was like, wait a second, what? What? And I wasn't like, I guess I didn't even get a really good look at him, but I wasn't staring at him while they were eating lunch. But I feel like if it was just like a super notable football guy, I would obviously have known, not even paying attention. I just would have like caught the corner of my eyes. Like, wait a second, Pat Mahomes just sitting over there in the corner of the restaurant. Like, you would pick up on the fact that, and just, oh wait, why is there just a mob of people over in the corner of the restaurant too? That could be. Well, maybe, I don't know. If he's out with Brittany, is there no mom? Who knows? But, if it's a super notable football guy, I feel like, his face would just be more visible. And I just did not know that there was a Hall of Fame guy sitting in the restaurant today. So I figured I was going to wait and look him up when I got home. Let's see if this guy's stats are legit. What's going on with this guy? And to clarify, also, the server said that she looked it up and said that, because I was like, wait a second, Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame, or is it a team Hall of Fame? So she looked it up. Of course, the first thing I didn't want to do is start cutting down this guy's career, but I just wanted, I was like, how did I not know that there was a Hall of Famer in the restaurant? And she said that he was going into the Packers Hall of Fame. So I've looked him up. Defensive lineman. Do I want to say his name? I don't know if I want to blow up his spot, but I mean, hey, he played football. Like, I mean, we know who he is. And like, I'm literally looking at his page right now. It's not a secret who this guy is, but Aaron Campman, again, I think I said going into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame, 2002 NFL draft, of course, being in the Midwest, played here at the local school, high school as well, too, in state. Oh, yeah, born local kid. So I feel like also I have good tabs on who the, who the local guys are, but apparently not. This is a recommit, a wake up call to recommit and know who the potential local talent is, because any day one of these guys could just apparently be wandering in the restaurant to sit down and eat lunch. But yeah, homegrown kid, 2002 draft, played for the Packers from 02 to 09, and then there was a couple of years there with the Jaguars as well. So division rival. Maybe it's a good thing that I didn't know that he was a Jaguars player there. 2010, 2011. I don't think that these seasons were anything to write home about for the Jags. Yeah, 8-8, Jack Del Rio. 5-11 in 2011. Only 3 games played, though, for our guy Aaron Campman. Probably too good. They were trying to tank. Shout out. Had to get him off the team, of course. But I don't think the Colts as well were lighting up the league at this point. 2010 would have been the year post Super Bowl. So I believe, 10-6, still won the division. But that was an early round playoff exit. Lost the wild card game that year to the Jets, 16-17. And then the next year was also the tank season for the Colts. So I can't even say anything to this guy. The 5-11 Jags were better than the Colts in 2011. Of course, I just had the tanking season blanked out of my memory. The Curtis Painter run. I cannot picture any Curtis Painter plays that he had, and apparently he only played 8 games as well too. I forgot that there was 5 Orlovsky starts for the Colts in 2011. Thank God, Dan Orlovsky. But 0-8 with Curtis Painter, and there was a fumble at one point that was just disastrous, 20 yards, terrible play. And the only image that I have of Curtis Painter is trying to scoop the ball up, fumbling backwards, and 0-8. But hey, we got Andrew Luck, and it was a good, I enjoyed the Andrew Luck run, even though, of course, little premature retirement from our guy Andrew Luck. I was gonna say PR, but I guess we're gonna have to find a different. We're gonna have to work on a different acronym for the premature leaving of of a guy's career. Andrew Luck, Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders. But anyways, back to our guy Aaron Campman. Good run with the Packers. She said he was going into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. I believe they're inducting him this year. Let's double check that. Is it him and legend Clay Matthews? Okay. I can't say that I remember seeing this guy today, but Ring of Honor potentially. I don't know if it was a Ring of Honor ordeal as well too. I guess is there a potential difference between a Ring of Honor and a Team Hall of Fame? I think it's all the same thing. So yeah, he will be inducted into the 2024 Packers Hall of Fame. And again, not just a long career, really good run here at the end. Back-to-back Pro Bowls, back-to-back second team All-Pros. Our guy was a stud. Shout out to the hometown crew. Aaron Campman, a well-deserved Packers Hall of Fame induction. Man, I did not realize that we had an Iowa guy, second team All-Pro like this in the the late aughts. I know Chad Greenway was flirting with football, but this would have been really kind of the first couple of seasons that I would have even have remembered as well too, because of course this 06 Colts winning the Super Bowl is the first real season that sticks out in my mind. And then the next year, the 2017 Patriots and then the Giants upsetting them in the Super Bowl. That's when it's really the sports memories start to become super clear. And then, I guess by the time he got to the Jags, where he would have been playing the Colts a couple times a year, he necessarily wouldn't have been a super heavy rotation guy at that point. But 15.5 sacks in 2006, and then 12 sacks in 2007. Let's see what we got for forced fumbles. 2 forced fumbles for our guy. So maybe he, wraps up tackling at the legs. I don't know. Would our guy make it in the modern day with the rule changes? Gonna have to teach him to go high and swipe for the ball when he's going in for the sack. Any touchdowns? Did our guy get in the end zone at all? No touchdowns for our guy, Aaron Campman. No safeties as well, too. No getting in the end zone, going back the other way. Pause. But 30 QB hits as well, too. In 2006, man, really just one of the better pass rushers in the league that year. Let's see if we can see how that stacks up amongst the rest of the players. Defensive Rookie of the Year, D'Amico Ryans. Shout out. Defensive Player of the Year, Jason Taylor. Also, shout out Jason Taylor. Just a bunch of shout outs here to start. Sean Merriman led the league in sacks that year, 17 sacks. And then Cameron would have been second at 15 and a half. Lighten up the league. And is that first in QB hits? Yeah, led the league in QB hits. 3 QB hits above Roosevelt Coleman. Number 2, Cameron Wembley. Number 3, Leonard Little. Kyle Vandenbosch. Okay, I know this guy. Yeah, Titans. So, playing the Colts a lot in these early years. Trevor Price on the Ravens. I remember some of these guys. Bart Scott making his name known on the ESPN run these days. But, man, the QB hits leaders in 2006. What a who's who of guys. I would not have really have known any of these guys. And then I guess we should see who else was All-Pro that year. LaDainian Tomlinson, MVP of the league. So this was the insane touchdown season for LT. And Drew Brees, not on the Chargers at that point anymore, on his first season on the Saints, but snagging the first team All-Pro spot ahead of Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, second team All-Pro. Larry Johnson, LaDainian Tomlinson were the running backs. Chad Johnson, shout out Nightcap. Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, first team All-Pro this year, along with Marvin Harrison. We got Antonio Gates is the tight end. A nice studded crew of offensive linemen, including Jeff Saturday. Jason Taylor, Julius Peppers as the first team All-Pro defensive end. So, I mean, there is no shame in being the guy that is third place in the Jason Taylor, Julius Peppers All-Pro rank. Because, again, Campman was second in sacks that year, but looks like Peppers was able to snag that first team spot. 13 sacks that year for our guy Peppers in the Panthers. 8-8. Was Green Bay better? Green Bay also 8-8. Mike McCarthy taking over at this point. But Aaron Schobel was the other defensive end on second team All-Pro from the Bills. Kevin Williams, Jamal Williams, defensive tackles. Urlacher, Zach Thomas, Champ Bailey. Oh, my childhood right here. On the linebacker on the first team All-Pro defensive spots. Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins. The defense is stacked on first team All-Pro. You got Peppers, Taylor, Urlacher, Champ Bailey, Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins. I mean, let's go look up the first team All-Pro from this season. And, first team All-Pro, it's still pretty stacked. And, even if you go back the last couple of years where you're just going to have the incredible Aaron Donald run of first team All-Pro. So it's like pick a team and you're going to have pick a defense from the last couple of years and you're just going to have the best defensive tackle on that defense for the All-Pros. But last season for defense, we've got Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, TJ Watt, Donald still sneaking on first team along with Chris Jones. Just again, keeping up the incredible run of first team All-Pros. I guess last year, when he got hurt was the one year that broke the stretch. So Aaron Donald and Chris Jones is pretty stacked. Can't complain about that. For defensive line, DeRon Bland, Sauce Gardner, Trent McDuffie in the secondary. Maybe that's, with Dawkins and Ed Reed obviously are going to be a step above, and no disrespect, but it's just a step above most of the safety. And, Kyle Hamilton and Antoine Williams. Kyle Hamilton, young guy, between him and Sauce Gardner and McDuffie, there is a lot of upside for this defense from an all-time standpoint. And you've already got some studs all time here with Donald and Chris Jones and TJ Watt as well too. So maybe there's only it can only go up for this all pro team. Pause for this all pro team from here because of the youth in that secondary. But 2006, man, it just felt like the defense and, you know, the physicality in the league as well too, the rules emphasizing defense. Yeah, it's not just the players, it's the league itself has changed and what's prioritized and where the talent has been headed. But the next season, 2007, man, quite a bit of turnover for the defensive player positions for the first team all pro. Jared Allen in his Kansas City days, 15 and a half sacks, sneaking on first team all pro. Man, if Kim had put up 15 and a half sacks this year, he might have snuck on because Patrick Kearney from the Seahawks was also on first team all pro this year. So man, if Patrick, no disrespect to Aaron Cammon for me not recognizing him, if Patrick Kearney, first team all pro from that year, had walked in the restaurant, I would not have known who he was either. But 14 and a half sacks for our guy that year. And then second team all pro, Mario Williams, Aaron Cammon, DeMarcus Ware's on first team, Mike Vrabel, Asante Samuel, Antonio Cromartie. Oh, shout out Bob Sanders sneaking on first team all pro in the safety spot. And then Ed Reed as well too. Palomalu on second team. Sean Taylor is on second team all pro this year as well. 9 games played, but I mean, of course he would have probably been all pro many more times. Rest in peace. But I honestly think maybe if we can sneak Sean Taylor on that first team and get him at the peak of his powers, that's 07 team becomes a lot better. I mean, you're not going to hear me saying I would trade Bob Sanders for Sean Taylor. I love Bob Sanders. I mean, he's got to be top. I mean, he's top 2 favorite defense. He is probably my favorite defensive player of all time. So I'm not, but Sean Taylor is, I mean, maybe just one of the most talented safeties of all time. But anyways, I would still probably take that 06 all-pro team over the 07 one. But shout out to our guy, the hometown kid, Aaron Campman, going into the Packers Hall of Fame this year. Storied Hall of Fame. And yeah, storied run here for a storied franchise. Are we dropping bars? We'll just keep rhyming storied with storied. But probably not going to make it into the Jags Hall of Fame. But yeah, double-digit sack guy there. 3 years in a row, consistently getting to the quarterback. And they're inducting him and Clay Matthews. So he kind of passed the torch to Clay Matthews, the white pass rusher, outside linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. And again, just another, I guess Cameron, it's listed more of a defensive tackle, defensive end as well too. So really doing it. I would say from, just looking at silhouettes in the restaurant, doing a good job of staying in shape post career. Cause I would have guessed he would have been more Clay Matthews, defensive end, outside linebacker, but white defensive lineman belt for the Green Bay Packers. And it looked like there was also some blonde, some great blonde hair as well too for our guy Campman, which also I don't want to put our guy on plus a little bit since his playing days, but I guess a lot of belts that he's passing down. Pause to Clay Matthews. So shout out that both those guys are going into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame this year. And shout out our guy Aaron Campman. Call in sometime if you're listening to this. Crazy that again, I feel like I'm just a bad fan now. I just did not know who this guy was at all, and he just was sitting. But it's for the best. I mean, it's not like I would have gone over and said anything to him if I had known who he was. Anyways, it would have really been like, I mean, it would have had to been like maybe Ginobili might be like the only athlete in the Ginobili, Duncan, and Parker and Pop are like the only athletes in the world that I would just bother him if I saw him out, especially at a restaurant eating and you're working there. It's not a good look. Maybe you just let him have a good time. But if it's one of the Spurs big three, I'm not even going to ask for a picture. It's just like, hey, thanks for the work. Let me pick up a part of the tab because we know with Pop's love of fine wine, I'm definitely not flipping the whole tab, but maybe I'll buy Pop a glass. So just like, can I get one of the appetizers for the Spurs for one of the 5 titles? I'll pick up some, I'll pay for the fries on the side, but maybe it's for the best that I didn't know who it was, but now we're on the lookout. Now you're uncovered, buddy. The game is up. We know who you are, and next time you're in here, do you get a jacket? Do the teams give out jackets for getting in the team Hall of Fame? You get a gold jacket for going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, obviously, but I wonder and they probably can't give out a green jacket either because that's trademarked by the Masters. I would assume it's they've got all rights on all green jackets. I just I don't see a lot of green suit jackets. Oh no, that's not true. I think they're like an olive green. I guess like kind of like the green that I've got on right here. Shout out for wearing the green on the Aaron Campman Day as well too for the Packers in honor of Aaron Campman, the Aaron Campman episode of the Rem and Sam podcast. But I feel like like an olive green suit, something like that. It's still pretty popular. It's still a good look for sure. I just maybe not the most common look. Maybe if somebody's bold enough to break the Masters trademark and rock the look, then you'll see it every once in a while. But you got to get like a ring. I bet you definitely get a ring of honor, ring of fame, whatever. They definitely give you some little thing, I would imagine, other than just, hey, your plaque's in this spot on the wall. And then it's more than just that. You also got to play football at a professional level and do it at a high level for a team, which is pretty cool in of itself. And the fact that they're patting you on the back afterwards is also pretty sick. But I would assume that you do want an award for some of the achievements. I guess maybe you do. I was at a basketball camp once when I was a kid, and I don't even know why I feel like I'm telling the story, but I was on the all-star team. They had like a big all-star team. Make no mistake, it's a big all-star team. Good sized basketball camp, but a full size. They ran, maybe it might have been like three guys. They're like a they had like a 3-team all NBA setup at this basketball camp. And then there was like a round robin-ish all-star game afterwards as well. So, but the only reward for being in the all-star game was just, you got to be in the all-star game and play in the all-star game, which is a cool reward in front of all the campers. But they literally gave out medals for everything else. There was a 3-on-5, a 1v1, 5v5, 3-on-3 tournaments. I restarted saying 3-on-3 to say them in order, and then I still messed up the order somehow. But a 1v1, 3v3, and a 5v5 tournament. And we ended up snagging the 3v3 tournament as well too. So Jimmer Fredette, call up if one of the guys goes down, but for Team USA. But they gave us a medal for the 3-on-3 camp, and nothing for the All-Star game. But it's not like I sit here and go like, man, I really wish I had that All-Star medal from that year. Like, again, you get to play in the game, and you know that at the camp, like, hey, you get at least hang with some of the better players, which is a fun feeling as well too. So I don't know if you necessarily if Aaron Campman needs the ring or the jacket, but if he does get a jacket, I guess I just want to know if he'll ever pull up into the restaurant wearing the jacket or the ring that the Packers give him for getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. I wonder if did they just announce that as well too? Let's check the dates on the articles. Is that why they were out to you? No, I doubt it. They probably would have done a little bit more. Again, we don't want to just like do a play-by-play of this guy's afternoon, but seemed like it was just having a good time with the family. And it looks like they announced that a little while ago in the off season. They had revealed that was gonna. So maybe they did the announcement party for a dinner, and I just wasn't there. And but yeah, shout out to our guy for a great career with the Green Bay Packers as well too, and great. Last thing, we'll check the Iowa stats here and see what he did in college. 2 interceptions on the defensive line. Apparently, they didn't keep sack stats on College Football Reference for the 2000 and 2001 seasons. But again, he logged a couple of interceptions, 2 picks, 14 return yards in 2021. So, hey, when I said earlier, maybe our guy wraps up at the ankles, goes for the knees when he's going for the sack. His hands are up when he's attacking the passer. He's getting the batted passes, tip balls, interceptions, all that good stuff. So, hey, shout out. I did not know. I'll have to make sure I'm combing through these all-pro teams a little bit better. Because again, this wasn't just a guy. There have been a couple of times where it's like, hey, just a guy's pulling up, and it's like, that's pretty cool. But hey, second team All Pro is a big deal. Hassan Reddick level type guy. I guess Hassan Reddick, maybe a few more years with double-digit sacks. I really, really like Hassan Reddick, but that's not to say I don't really like Aaron Cameron's game either. But Reddick, of course, helped the defense get to a Super Bowl a year ago, which is just another, even the incremental levels of this stuff. But that was the Rem and Sam Investigates corner for Tales from the Restaurant. Should we do another one last segment, Tales from the Restaurant? This is a segment called Dumb or Dumber, not Dumb and Dumber. Shout out to the great Jim Carrey movie Dumb and Dumber, but Dumb or Dumber. So I was taking a reservation and getting the guys, you know, all the informations out. We're definitely not going to say this guy's name. Don't worry. We're not going to get in trouble for that. I don't know if we're going to get in trouble for saying this patron's name. But again, he's a professional athlete. And I feel like, you know, we're talking about the football player here and not saying too much. But one of the things you have to take is like, if it's associated with a business, you get the business name. And I was getting the guy's info and I was like, hey, is this going to be a business thing? And he's like, yeah, the business is Geico. And I was like, Geico? Like G-U-Y Co? And he was like, yeah, like Geico. So I was like, oh, okay. I've never heard of Geico, but I'll write, Geico. That's fine. So went about it as usual, put everything in the computer. Everything seemed pretty normal. And then one of the other coworkers must have saw the reservation. And when I was walking around later, they were like, hey, for that, because it was a same day as well, too, not to get too in the weeds, but they're like, hey, for that reservation tonight, did you mean Geico? Like the lizard instead of Geico? And it was one of those moments where you're like, okay, yeah, 100%. That is what he meant. Because there is no company. And maybe there's definitely not in a town our size. Maybe in some bigger cities where there's just, more people, greater chances, some smaller startups. Maybe you definitely get like New York, LA, there's definitely a Geico, G-U-Y. But I don't think a mid to small size town like ours, there's just a random startup called Geico when there could very well be an office for the very, very large corporate insurance company that is called Geico. And that like also is very popular in sporting events and sports commercials. Like I should definitely know what Geico is. But again, dumb or dumber. Obviously, I am dumb for not realizing and thinking in the moment that it should have been Geico instead of Geico. Maybe, there's some pronunciation things with our guy that maybe need to be worked out with where you enunciate the word Geico versus Geico. There is a difference there, but obviously I should have just known right away that he was talking about Geico. But again, if you're listening to the story, I was like, wait, are you sure you mean Geico? Like you actually have a company called Geico, or is this some prank? Are you making this up? So again, I spelled it back out to him, G-U-Y. It's like, do you mean Geico? And he's like, yeah, Geico. And I was like, okay, whatever. So am I dumb? I am dumb for not knowing that it was Geico, but is he dumber for hearing me spell it back and not being like, what are you, for just not calling me out as well too in the moment, being like, you idiot, the Geico, what are you talking about? It's the insurance company Geico, the lizard. You know what we're talking about, the Geico gecko here. But yeah, it's not a good situation. I guess moral of the story is everybody in corporate America is just checked out right now. Nobody's paying attention because I did not realize that he was talking about Geico, and he did not realize that I spelled it back G-U-Y-Co, thought he was talking about some company that he started with his boys and was like, yeah, we're bros. Let's call it Geico, because it's just a bunch of us hanging out doing business together. Pause. So corporate America is checked out. I mean, it's not just corporate America as well, too. Athletes, I mean, like we said, Zach Edey is load management, his second game into Summer League. The Utah Summer League, they're load managing Zach Edey. I guess maybe there was like some hamstring thing or something, I don't know, going on with Zach Edey, but I don't know. Corporate America, the athletes are checked out. We hate to get controversial in Rem and Sam pod, but DC, I don't know if they're super locked in. So moral of the story is everybody is checked out right now in America. And I guess I've been checked out all the way since '06 because I did not realize who Aaron Campbell was. Anyways, that's that's enough tales from the restaurant for today. But there was something that I actually did want to talk about from this past weekend. From I guess the past week, 4th of July week, a movie dropped, a new movie. And I gotta say, we haven't been super locked in on the new movies lately, but Beverly Hills Cop 4 was dropping on Netflix over the 4th of July. Actually, it ended up dropping July 3rd, but you know, the big 4th of July release was Beverly Hills Cop 4. And like I said, there just hasn't really been a new movie that has super drawn me in at this point this year. There have still been some movies with, you know, I think some pretty good hype. Still some some pretty successful box offices. But again, nothing that has really been like a must-see type of thing. And it's not like I just need to go see a movie just like if everybody is going seeing. Like there has also been like a, you know, it's like, hey, I feel like with the way also, and Sam has brought this up, but just with the way everything's been dropping on streaming afterwards, and you can kind of count, like, just, I know I'm also probably going to see the movie if I miss it's more likely now that I see the movie if I miss the movie than it was even a couple of years ago, just because everything is so geared now that, yeah, it's just almost automatically going to hit streaming at some point afterwards. I guess maybe there's still some smaller studios that got some independent stuff that still floats out there, but you know, everything is either a movie that's made for streaming, but also just, you know, the big companies now have the streaming services attached to them, so they can just easily put it right on their platform after they're done with the theatrical release and after they wait it out, versus if the movie was, and you know, I'm trying to think, like, even with the Marvel movies, and you know, we don't really have any Marvel movies this year, but like even with the Marvel movies after they dropped, there was still a little bit of a period there where you knew before it was going to hit after the theatrical release went away. So you still felt like you had to hit that theatrical release before it was really a long time before you were going to see that movie. But now, again, like what Sam said, it just feels like, and maybe it's just with how fast the culture is moving now too, but it feels like everything just hits streaming sooner than before. I mean, like you said, Beverly Hills Cop dropped on Netflix, so I could just watch it at home the day it came out. But nothing has really been that big gravitating thing, except for Eddie Murphy, of course. But like I said, too, this has also been the first year without the big Marvel presence in a while. And yeah, I am a Marvel guy, and it's not like I'm just when it comes to movies, I'm not just a Marvel guy. Obviously, I do like going to see other movies, but in terms of going to the theater, that is a big part of it. But if you also think about what the big movies were that were coming out, you know, Marvel movies were going to be the highest grossing movies, the most popular movies. But, and you know, I know that they were criticized in IP and the stuff, and people were like, well, what is cinema becoming with the Marvel movies being at the forefront and being what's most popular when it comes to people consuming movies? But at least with the Marvel movies, we were still getting original stories in Hollywood. Yeah, I mean, adaptation from comic books. I mean, you know, adaptations for movies is not that's been going back to Hollywood since the beginning. But at least what we were seeing on the screen in terms of characters, in terms of story, there was still some guaranteed newness to, in theory anyways, at least to some degree, to each Marvel movie. And part of the reason that it fell off is because that greater story stopped really becoming, you know, not as present, but just becoming as interesting as well too in the more recent Marvel movies. But with Beverly Hills Cop 4, I mean, I'm trying to think of what the other big movies are going to be this summer as well too. And I'm also not as tuned up on movie news as I have been in the past. I know, like, later this year we've got Gladiator 2 dropping, so there are some bigger movies with some hype. And like I said, big box office movies as well too. Inside Out is the #1 box office movie right now, but Inside Out 2, Dune. Okay, so this is let me just go through the box office right now, the top 10 for this year, for calendar year 2024. So this is not like for the next award cycle or whatever. This is just calendar year 2024. We've got Inside Out 2, Dune Part 2, Godzilla times Kong, The New Empire. Is that the second Godzilla versus Kong movie? Yeah, the sequel to the Godzilla Kong movie in 2021. So again, maybe I have to put this one in my Avengers argument. It's some sort of new storyline, but running it back with characters, Kung Fu Panda 4, YOLO, which this is the worldwide box office. This is a Chinese film. Pegasus 2, also a Chinese film, but also a sequel. And then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Bad Boys, the fourth one. And then we've got Article 20, another international film, and Boonie Bears, an international animated cartoon series. Why is this going on the list for top 10 worldwide gross movies? I don't know. Is there a theatrical release for this Chinese animated cartoon television show featuring Briar and Bramble? Is this I guess, yeah, it's definitely a bear. I just looked at the title again. It's the Boonie Bears. But again, these are all, and maybe the Marvel thing was, maybe it's just, I am being a little bit Marvel biased there. But even with Beverly Hills Cop 4, which was the most excited I've been for probably a new movie this year, it was, a movie that I really enjoyed. And I guess I'll say spoiler warning too, because I'll probably say something that spoils the movie if you haven't seen it yet. But a movie that I really enjoyed, I'm going to always love watching Eddie Murphy in a movie, and especially in a Beverly Hills Cop movie. So the bar is going to be low for me just to be entertained. But I thought in terms of, getting technical and picking it apart, it's a pretty solid movie. It's got a good plot, moves along pretty well. But again, it's a legacy. Did I hear? I think what was heard Sean Fennessy on The Big Picture called them a legacy sequel. It's because it's not like really a reboot where you're restarting everything, but you're just, picking back up where you left off. And we've been seeing them do that with Indiana Jones lately. But we're just to this point now with movies where we're not, I guess I don't want to say we're not, but I wonder how many lasting movies that we have from this era of movies. And, just, I don't want to say this decade yet, because it's still only 2024. We're not quite halfway through. So there's still, a majority of the decade to go. And, we did have Oppenheimer and Barbie last year. Let's go look at the top 10 for 2023, because I'm imagining those would have been, 1 and 3, not 1 and 2, because Super Mario Bros. Was number 1, but still, kind of a new movie. Guardians of the Galaxy 4, Fast and Furious, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Full River Red, international film, Wonka at 8, The Wandering Earth 2, another Chinese science action film. Ooh, I wonder where this ranks, and wonder the comparison for franchises is. The Wandering Earth franchise is for our American franchise, and then The Little Mermaid for the live action Little Mermaid at number 10 for last season. But when Oppenheimer dropped last year, and we were talking could this be movie of the decade? Again, the only other movie that we had in terms of a big event that we could compare it to at the time was Top Gun, and it was Top Gun 2. It's another, legacy sequel to another 80s movie. And I think, like we were saying, we were talking about, is that a movie of the decade candidate? A really, really good movie. But I still think that first Top Gun is just going to be the most iconic of the two movies. That's going to be the one that's just the most rewatched. That's going to be the one that gets passed down. And again, with the movies that are dropping right now, Oppenheimer and Barbie, I think especially as well too, because it's the kids movie, I think has a chance to have kind of the generational legs like that. But there's just again, Beverly Hills Cop, really solid movie. But even with the way things just come and go on pause and streaming these days, It just feels like, it'll have its time in top 10. It's number one right now, but it'll, in terms of, rewatchability, I think it's super rewatchable. I'll definitely go back and rewatch it, I'm sure, but I don't know if it's a movie where, it's like if you have the kids and it's like you're starting to show them the movies, like Beverly Hills Cop 4 is not like, we got to make sure we get to Beverly Hills Cop 4. Beverly Hills Cop 1 and probably Beverly Hills Cop 2. It's like, yeah, I mean, those are iconic movies. We got to try to watch those as soon as they're able to watch those. But, again, the fourth one will be watched because it's Eddie Murphy, because it's the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. But if it was if we were still like in CD days and it was the house on fire and you got to save movies and we got all the movies from the different decades in the room, like I don't know how many movies we're pulling out from the 2020s at this point. And maybe I'm just doing a bad job of remembering what the big movies are. When did Everything Everywhere All at Once drop? I think that might have even been a 20. Okay, so that was 2022. So that one is, I think, also going to have really, really good legs because that's a must rewatch. But I'm trying to also think I should have done a little bit more research on figuring out what the movies with legs are at this point. But maybe we'll do that. Maybe that's another segment because we got time this summer. Don't worry, sports are not picking back up for a little bit. Well, they actually are. I will be mistaken because we got the Olympics on the horizon. Like we said, summer league. We're not going to be able to help ourselves. We're just going to be diving into all the meaningless offseason stuff that happens. But there still will be breaks in between the meaningless offseason stuff that happens in the various sports. Training camps will be picking up for the NFL. Anthony Richardson will be back under center for the first time in a while. The Jets fans are super excited to have Rodgers back when he gets back in camp, whenever he decides to show up. I guess I don't know if on the reports he's reported yet or what the schedules is for these guys. I guess they probably haven't even started the main training camp stuff, but because Rodgers 4 plays for the Jets, but Richardson didn't have like a long run for the Colts either as well too. So if it's just like just like the anticipation, antsiness to get the guy back out on the field, just to see the guy play, not even to like, hey, is our guy good? Like we'll definitely get to that level where once Anthony Richardson gets comfortable and fingers crossed, knock on wood, we've got a solid desk right here, knock on wood. But hopefully the man stays healthy, and hopefully that once we get into the season, we're no longer worried about durability as a problem. And once we get to seeing him on the field more consistently, then we're able to have the dialogue about where he stacks up amongst quarterbacks in the league. But Jets fans are also, there's probably a couple other teams that are just in that place. That's like, can we just see our guy back on the field first? Like we just want to see him play. But, the Dune 1 and 2 for movies with legs, really solid action franchises. But again, I don't know if I would put him up even against like some of the really, really great stuff of the 2010s. Once you start going the aughts and the 90s, different styles just because of the way the movies look. Some films have, of course, have like a timeless quality to them. Goodfellas is going to be an all-time action movie, no matter how the movies look, regardless of the era. But just to compare, more modern movies to modern movies, like I would still like the Sicario. That's a Denis Villeneuve, if I said his last name right, the guy who directs Dune. I just within his own movies, I would still say like the Sicario movies, I would just pick those over the Dune movies. Maybe I'm just nostalgic for those first. But again, I love Beverly Hills Cop. So I'm not trying to say this to say that Beverly Hills Cop is a bad movie, but just, I'll try to call it for what it is, but just the lack of originality in the movies that are being made right now. I think again, it can work in the box office. People are going to go see these things, and with the Marvel things, yeah, that's maybe that is counter to my argument. Maybe that's just the highest level of the thing that I'm actually mad about, where you'll go see it even if it's the same thing over and over again. But maybe it's like, hey, the great thing about the Marvel was we were able to get the original thing in every movie, and then we came to expect that, and then we were like, hey, that's not a just a guaranteed thing with Marvel. They had, you know, really great filmmakers with the Russo brothers, really great set of actors. Maybe it was just a special run that they were having there in the early phases, but you know, again, I'm gonna watch Beverly Hills Cop. You can make successful movies by making these sequels and legacy sequels and these ones and twos and threes and all this different stuff, but you know, it's not like can we just get a new movie, but if the if we're worried about what the decade means, if we're worried about trying to make the 2020s say something, then you know, can we have some meaningful movies come out of these years? Then there's gonna need to be some original stuff like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Maybe Everything Everywhere All at Once. We do have to really that is now, and it was already, of course, in movie of the decade conversation, but now maybe I'm like, ooh, is that number one over the Oppenheimer? You know, we got love for Nolan because of The Dark Knight, and we're always gonna ride for our Batman guy pause, but maybe the Michelle Yeoh performance takes cake over all the movies so far for movie of the decade. But again, Beverly Hills 4 Cop, I would recommend it. I'd say, you know, absolutely watch the first couple leading up to it just because they're amazing. But it's not like you would even have to. Eddie Murphy, it's a great time, anyways. But you know, like I said, it's still been the type of thing where you know it's to the point where it's really just like the few guys that I really love to go see. Few guys and girls, of course. You know, Margot Robbie, Emma Stone. There's people on all across the gender spectrum that we're trying to go see in the movies, but it's really our actors, you know, it's really the actors that we want to go see that we're gravitating toward at this point. And it's not even, you know, there's definitely some new blood on the horizon that's very, you know, very great, very interesting that we'd love to go see. But it's like these legacy guys as well, too, from these franchises back in the old day. Like for me, like I'm saying, the movies that I'm really excited about is like the Beverly Hills Cop reboot and then Gladiator 2. And it's not just because because it's the second Gladiator, which is amazing, but it's also because it's the next Denzel Washington movie, who is probably, you know, Eddie Murphy and Denzel are like maybe the two guys. It's like just any movie that they're in, it's just, I'm going to see that regardless. So again, my bar for enjoying Beverly Hills Cop is just going to be super, super low. And then, you know, Ryan Gosling's probably a tier A guy in that list as well, too. Chris Evans is, you know, we love to support Chris Evans, but I would say the movies that he picks might always not line up with our taste. But like The Gray Man, awesome choice. Like we love that. Do more movies like the Gray Man, especially with your performance in the villain role, which very Lloyd Hansen? We're very pro Chris Evans as Lloyd Hansen on the Rem and Sam pod. I guess I don't know if Sam has seen The Gray Man or not, but you know, of course, I'm very pro Chris Evans as Lloyd Hansen. But you know, it's just like the few couple of guys and girls in tier A for actors that, you know, if they're, you know, Denzel, he's making, again, Gladiator, it's Gladiator 2, Equalizer 3, you know, we're going to go see all the Equalizer movies and all the different franchise type stuff. But there hasn't been that story that people, again, since the Everywhere. But even that was 2022. That was still, you know, the lingering effects of COVID. So it still wasn't really able to have that big full moment. Maybe that was full on COVID as well, too. You never know. COVID is just like a full blur when the pandemic was. But, you know, it didn't really get that full cultural moment. The same, especially then, maybe nothing was going to get to the hype that the Barbenheimer hype, the Barbie Oppenheimer hype was. But just that, oh, this is a great movie. Everybody needs to go see it. Everybody's trying to go see it. People are going back to watch it again with their friends, with different friend groups, because it's just so like showing it to multiple people multiple times, you know, just because it's that good of a movie, wasn't really able to have that kind of an effect. But you know, we will see. Like I will have to definitely keep an eye out, more of an eye out on what type of stuff is in the works. And you know, I was going through some of the actors' IMDb's. Like there's definitely some movies that definitely grabbed my attention. But you know, I want to see, and that's been just so fun to watch these older movies. Cause like I said, I just haven't been keeping up with not even just new movies that are coming out, but even newer ish movies like from the 20 teens. Just any modern looking movie is just not being in the rewatch cycle right now. And especially as the technology in movie increases, and as we as the stunts get better and as the CGI gets better, it makes the movies look better, but it also can maybe, I don't want to say worsen how the old movies look, but it can just expose the aging of some of the old movies. So when you have these older movies that have the legs that they do, a lot of times, they do have action sequences and CGI and special effects and things that you're like, oh, wow, this is surprisingly really good for the time that it was made. And that's why, that can be part of the reason that it holds up. But a lot of the reasons is because, like, oh, the stories are so great and the performances are so great. Not that the performances these days have been super great, but it's just we haven't had those stories, that the amount of stories that are going to have the legs that we're going to do. And maybe it's just the way Hollywood, and maybe it's not even, Hollywood, just in terms of the movie industry, we get that it's at this point, a full on shift to streaming. Like Netflix is just having the biggest year in the entertainment industry so far with what they had, the roast, they've had the Cat Williams special, they had Shane Gillis's tires, they've had this. So, they just had a ton of really big stuff so far. So, it's a full on streaming world these days, but just to refer to the movie industry as Hollywood, maybe it's just the shift in how much it's being made, that not that these things are getting lost, but maybe the filtering process, these things aren't getting as refined throughout the process of creating them. Who knows? Well, and there's box office stuff, but even still, like, if somebody makes a really good original movie, it's not like it's not going to do well at the box office. People are going to go see it. So I don't know. Maybe I am just wrong. Maybe people would rather go. Maybe with what Sam's saying, the streaming wars is full on. But I'm not. Maybe I'm not even talking about box office. I'm just talking about a cultural moment where, like, wow, this is a story that we've never seen before, but this is a new take on this thing. These are new characters, new references, new phrases, just new things injected into the zeitgeist would be nice. And like I'm saying, it's incredible to have Axel Foley back. Incredible to have Rose. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy these guys. This is just what I was thinking about as I was watching this movie, going, man, this is the movie of the summer so far. This Beverly Hills Cop 4. Eddie Murphy back again at 60 years old, turn up the summer. And maybe just Eddie Murphy in an action movie. It's like it's not like I'm saying that recipe is not the recipe for a movie of the summer. Of course, we've seen it before, like I was saying, with Beverly Hills Cop in the 80s, but it was Beverly Hills Cop 4 that the movie was. So regardless of it's the recipe, it was still a legacy sequel that the movie was made. Now, maybe, Eddie Murphy at this stage in his career is probably not making that type of movie unless it's the money, and the money is probably not there unless we know it's the legacy characters and we know that there's a formula for making that type of a thing work. But again, it was an incredible movie. Like when they talk about time, like, Axel Foley is a timeless character, and the fact that they're making this movie now, because it's not like they even had a random sequel in like the early 2000s or whatever. They did have one in the 90s, of course, with Beverly Hills Cop 3, but it's like, is there gonna be a way, like, what is it just gonna be like for him operating in a modern world? There's cell phones, like right away he's like at a hockey game, which of course there's hockey in the 90s, but just like the technology in an arena and at a hockey game and at a professional sporting event in the 90s versus what we got now is, an incredible jump. So just to see him right away in that type of environment is kind of like, oh wow, Axel Foley in modern day. Like, is this going to be kind of jarring? Like, how are they going to pull this off? But again, with Axel Foley specifically, more so than just, the bigger picture Hollywood stuff, the stuff that makes him timeless, just like, it's Eddie Murphy being super charming. I mean, that's why the first movie works, is because there was a great article on The Ringer as well too, about the movie, an oral history about the movie, just with like little interviews and snippets about people involved about the first movie and the making of it. And it talked about how basically the first script was just the outline of this rough plot. And then it was just like, hey, we're going to cast Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy's just going to improvise and make the movie funny. And, of course, the movie totally works. Like we're saying, it's a timeless classic, but Eddie Murphy is just being loose and charming. And it's not reliant on these like big plot points and these, oh, he's this big specific character, where it's not even like a Terminator thing with him. Not, that's we're not definitely criticizing Terminator in any way, but not like, oh, it's this specific, and it's Arnold, of course, being Arnold as well, too. That makes, it's going to be the actors that it makes the characters iconic, but it's like, oh, Terminator has these particular set of things as a character that make him a intimidating and just an iconic character. Whereas again, Axel Foley is kind of just like literally them making the movie is just kind of Eddie Murphy being Eddie Murphy. And yeah, he's a cop. He's Detroit. He's got the street smarts. He does have a unique personality to Axel Foley, but that character is just really Eddie Murphy shining in a way. And there was a great bit in that article about how originally the studio wanted to put Stallone, Rocky, in this movie, and Rocky was basically like, okay, if I'm in this movie, then the opening scene has to be like a Saving Private Ryan opening level event massacre at the scene. I am just take out bodies to start the movie. And then I guess everybody was just like in the meeting, just like stunned after hearing Stallone's pitch on how he wanted to open up the Beverly Hills Cop 4. And it's just like, oh, maybe who was that other guy that you wanted? I think that's the exact quote in the movie, which is like a very executive thing to do, to be like, yeah, wait, who was your guy? Just to not even remember the name of the other guy who was like Eddie Murphy, like a big star at the time too. It's I get an action role. Maybe they're thinking a little bit of a different thing, but it's not like they didn't know who Eddie Murphy was. I guess, when did Eddie Murphy get on SNL? Let's look that up quick. I want to say that was like 81 or 82, but make no mistake, I am not like a whiz with the years, the timeline of events for the 80s, but he arrived in SNL on, when did he get hired? Early 80s is not enough. I want a specific time of when he was in SNL. But 82, 84. So yeah, that would have been right after. And then I guess he leaves SNL to go in the movie. So that totally makes sense that he would have been not at the peak of his powers at going into Beverly Hills Cop 4, but still like a major star to have the cachet to start dipping his toe into these movies. And I get, Eddie Murphy. There's other bigger racial factors going on in America at this point that might be leading to some hesitancies with having him in that role. But again, knowing his name is another thing. But just the reason that the character is timeless is because Eddie Murphy is just bringing these the timeless qualities in his charisma to the character. And it totally works in this movie, despite the technology in the arena, in the hockey arena. And then you got Taggart, who somehow is police chief at this point. And, they're never really like, Rosewood and Taggart are never really fully like the bumbling cop duo, but they do kind of lean in that direction. I mean, they definitely have moments, but they also still do like clutch it out in a shootout as well too, and do take down the bad guys. But Taggart also had that mustache the whole time. So I don't know if it's just he looked like Tom Selleck and they were like, I guess you have the most police chief qualities because of that. I guess there was also a falling out with Rosewood. Again, we said spoiler alert at the beginning. Rosewood goes off to become a private detective of something, like a investigator. He's gone rogue. He's doing his own thing on the side at that point, no longer with the force. So maybe Rosewood was more eligible, and it was just like, hey, Taggart. Maybe Taggart is JJ Redick and Rosewood is Dan Hurley at that point. Maybe Eddie Murphy is JJ Redick for the movie, and Stallone, Sylvester Stallone was Dan Hurley, the original choice. And they were like, wait a second, you want to trade LeBron? Trade LeBron and do what? Do all these things and reset and whatever? Well, who is that JJ Redick guy from ESPN? that you wanted to hire, maybe we'll give him a look, LeBron. But Taggart is police chief. And the daughter as well, too. They got Eddie Murphy. They have a daughter. I've never seen Beverly Hills Cop 3, so I don't know if there's if that is anything to do with that one. Probably does, but I don't don't remember it being in the first or second. But it's it's the girl from the Kendrick Lamar "We Cry Together" music video. So what a come up for her to just be in the movie of the summer on Netflix and really crushing her role too. I gotta say, I bought a lot of stock. I definitely bought a lot of stock after the music video, but as a a full on getting into the movies, definitely purchased up a lot more stock after that. I'm trying to think of who else. Like was it with everybody else's character is a reboot, so not a reboot, but a legacy sequel. So I feel like all the stock has been bought up on Eddie Murphy at this point. I don't know though. Maybe there's some other final resurgent performance that he has where the stock does like one last big soar. I mean, the stock is definitely up right now. He's back in the mix. People are talking about him again because of Beverly Hills 4, like we're doing right here, of course. But she was in terms of going forward. It's like, okay, we got to go to the IMDb and make sure to keep tabs on the movies that she's going to be in the future. But Kevin Bacon as well too. Shout out Kevin Bacon, tearing it up as the villain role in this movie. Just the very obvious villain role right away from the beginning. And I don't know if he improvised the the cocaine scene where he just takes a hit. I mean, they're drug dealers and they're making moves, they're doing deals, but it's not like he was testing it. Sometimes they you got to gum it or something to just test it and see if it's real. See, you got to make sure the product is up to your standard, but he's just like, nope, things are going down. I guess I'm just going to start hitting off my own supply. So I guess I don't know if that was an improv scene from our guy, Kevin Bacon, or not, or if that was just his Eddie Murphy. You're letting Eddie Murphy improvise. Let me cook here in this final scene where we've got the Kendrick Lamar music video chick tied up in the chair. Kendrick Lamar music video lady tied up in the chair. I guess we're just gonna do a bump here to really tie together this villain performance. But again, like we said, fully recommend. I don't know if we want to give a Rotten Tomatoes score of we were going to try to pun Rem and Sam with Rotten Tomatoes, and it was going to be bad, make no mistake. So we'll just go ahead and self-edit it out. But I would say, high 70s for sure. Probably a 79. I feel like once you get into 80, like in that C+ territory, it's like, okay, this is clearly, I'm not, great movie is a strong term, but like really, like there's no shame in watching this movie. Maybe it's just not going to be, again, not just the rewatchability, but we start talking about prestige and awards and really breaking down the plot points, start nitpicking it and all that stuff. I feel like once you start getting into the 80s and above, you really are getting into some good movies. Maybe I'm being a tough grader, but I feel like even once you get into the A's, like I feel like the difference between like a 95 and a 90 is there's still a pretty big gap there. Cause even in like 2K, what's a 95 overall player in 2K to a 90 overall player? Let's give a 2K ratings quick. Cause Sicario, that's a tough one. We've got Sicario on the mind right now. Is that going to be the next rewatch? Are we back into the movies on the 20 teens? Sicario might be an exception. Like we just watched Training Day. Like Training Day might be a movie that's like a 90, whereas Goodfellas is like a 98, 99, where you're like, oh yeah, Training Day, awesome. Denzel, incredible performance, won the Oscar. Ethan Hawke tearing it up. Like it's great stuff, but maybe there's some plot stuff, the wallet, you start digging into it and nitpicking, and maybe there's just a couple of degrees separating Goodfellas and Training Day. Whereas, Goodfellas is like, oh, is this movie of the decade? Where again, 90 overall is like, oh wow, but we're really putting this in a Hall of Fame here. So right now they've got Steph and Anthony Edwards both listed at 95. LeBron, Tatum, Durant. I don't know if this list is totally up to date. This is on the 2K website, so it should be. Jokic still at a 98 overall. Embiid right now, 98 overall, tied with Jokic as the best player in the league. Doncic, Giannis, and Shea at 97. Durant also a 96. So yeah, you've got like Edwards and Steph and Davis and Booker. So those are your 95 overalls, your 495s. And then your 90 overalls, where you've got Pascal Siakam, Domantas Sabonis, and so Tyrese Halliburton. So like the difference between Tyrese Halliburton and Anthony Edwards is the difference in movies. Like I'm saying with my movie rankings. I guess I don't give them a Rotten Tomato score. It's like a 2K rating for movies. So what's like a 79 overall 2K player? What is the movie version of this or the 2K version of this player? Oh, so the top 100 list only goes to an 82. And an 82 overall, we got like Mitchell Robinson, Yusef Nurkic, Naz Reid, Daniel Gafford, Mark Williams. So the list goes on. Kuminga, DiVincenzo. Man, Mitchell Robinson and Nurkic, they're casting a wide net for 82 overall. See, like Naz Reid and Wendell Carter, are we sure they're the same level of player? Vucevic, Vooch and Herb Jones and D'Angelo Russell all should have the same 2K rating. Now we're getting sidetracked from the Beverly Hills Cop. We're back in on basketball. Of course, like we said, we can't help ourselves. We're gonna get hooked. But this is this movie like a Mitchell Robinson, a Naz Reid? I don't know. I feel like Naz Reid might be a little bit 82 overall, might be a little bit better than the movie because Naz Reid like kind of won. Was that Game 7 that he was just awesome in at the end and kind of won the series for the Timberwolves? So I don't know if Beverly Hills Cop is a series winning type of movie, but definitely high level role player type stuff. I don't know if we can get a exact 79 overall. Let's see if we can. This is the last piece. We'll definitely do this research and definitely get an answer. But I'm curious on myself on what the comparison is for the movie because I kind of like that idea of comparing movies to current players and being like, oh yeah, Oppenheimer. See, Oppenheimer I think is like and again we're talking current level players, so I think like guys at their current state, their current rating, like a Doncic level type movie where I mean yeah, best picture. So like it's definitely going to get you to the finals, but maybe you'd want to play defense a little bit. Like, do we need all 3 hours of Oppenheimer? Like, we get Nolan that you got to do your thing, but like this movie, maybe is this movie like a Devin Vassell? Maybe we want this movie to. Maybe we want Devin Vassell to be like this movie. Devin Vassell also an 82 overall. So hey, this movie is. Oh, Chris Paul is a 79 overall. So hey, right now Chris Paul, that's actually kind of perfect. This movie is Chris Paul, solid veteran. Gonna just kind of stabilize everything. You know what you get. It's gonna be hopefully consistent in theory. You know, I'm not saying Chris Paul's like consistently an all-star at this point, but maybe, you know, that consistent, good, like 5th to 4th to 6th man type of range on a low-end playoff team. Like that does feel about right. They've got Trey Jones, Chris Paul, Zach Collins, all at 79, Sohan at 78, next to Harrison Barnes. Oh man, I could just sit here and nitpick ratings all day, but that I feel like that might be a fair comparison, even though Chris Paul was kind of nice on the Warriors last year. Chris Paul, the Beverly Hills Cop 4, we're giving it a Chris Paul on the on the Rem and Sam movie rating scale. And Sam just asked me the other day, or I guess, yeah, technically this morning, I guess depending on what time zone we're in, because we're a couple hours apart, but he did ask me today, are you excited like having Chris Paul like on this team? Is he going to potentially be a playoff guy? It's like, yes, very excited to have Chris Paul teaching Wembanyama, teaching Stephen Castle, who, boy, if we want to get excited about Summer League, and I know the Spurs have not been putting up great performances in Summer League. I know the score is not the most important thing, but Castle is showing some very, very encouraging flashes. But anyways, we're just I guess we've just been rambling this whole time, but we're really, really rambling at this point. So I feel like we should probably wrap it up and save the rest of our Summer League and Team USA thoughts and whatever else random thoughts. Did we have any other piercing truth stuff? I guess that's also a Friday thing. Man, are we gonna have to expand piercing truth to the midweek edition? Maybe we'll come up with another piercing truth X piercing truth X segment to help round out the show in the future. But for now, I think that'll do. And I think I think the comparing movies to players, I like that. Well, are we going to start watching new movies now just to figure out where they stack up in the league? Maybe that'll get us back in on the new movies. We were waiting for something to turn the corner, and we knew it was going to happen eventually. We're not going to live our whole life in the 80s and 90s, but holy cow, Tubi has been clutch. Tubi is maybe secretly like the best streaming service right now. Maybe the best is strong, because if it's like, okay, if I had to have just one, am I taking Tubi? I know we said that Max, especially during the NBA season, they had the NBA games on there. So, I mean, you get live sports on a streaming service. Prime, you get Thursday Night Football. Prime's inking some other deals as well, too. Max just signed some other college football stuff as well, too, I believe. So, the live sports stuff continues to grow for the streaming service. Like we said, it's in a full-on streaming service takeover era, of course. But if we had to have just one, I don't know if it would be Tubi, but even Tubi has the WNBA. So Tubi also has live sports and just a really great collection of movies where, again, with these streaming services right now, even the new, well, I guess we just did that whole, we just rambled about the new content that we're making, but like even the shows that they're making are like reality shows. And, documentaries, of course, are good, but it seems like they're going for, we just want to make true crime stuff versus like, oh, we've got this great true crime story that we want to tell you. I guess that's what that Black Mirror episode that we talked about last year was about, was just like the quantity over quality and how does this affect that, really got into the victims, of course, and all that different stuff. But Tubi is just like iconic movies only. So it's, it's like Training Day is just sitting there on Tubi right now. Friday, House Party. We've watched White Men Can't Jump, Rush Hour. Like all these great 80s and 90s classics have been, Groundhog's Day. Like all these things just keep popping up and keep cycling on Tubi. And since they're not like the powerhouse that these other streaming services are, they're not as focused on the original content, where I think they're starting to do that stuff. So it's like, hey, don't forget that this is what makes you guys so cool. And that's what made streaming cool in the beginning, was that, oh, I just have access to this library of great movies. And I get that there is profitability and, keeping people entertained and keeping on your service. We, like I was saying earlier, we do need original things. So I'm not saying that the streaming services can't be the ones to provide those original things. But when people like Netflix and stuff, it's just, you get so geared away from the old movies. And Netflix has a little bit more of a problem with that because, they weren't around in the golden era of film from whenever to whenever, like the 30s to the 2010s or whatever. So it's not like they have that just, oh, well, all of a sudden we have this deep library of movies that we can throw on here, like Max can with Warner Brothers and all that different stuff. Peacock has got, I get Peacock might be, Warner Brothers might be Peacock, but like, just the Paramount with the Paramount Studios, and just, they've had all the Eddie Murphy movies. So right now they have had, or they do have like Beverly Hills Cop and Trading Places. And there's another, 48 Hours is on Paramount Plus as well, too. And Coming to America, I don't believe is actually streaming on anything right now. Trust me, we are waiting for it to drop so we can rewatch it. Boomerang might be, or no, Harlem Nights is also on Paramount. So it's like, oh, the Legacy Studio, we can just have all this amazing back catalog. So maybe it's more of a Netflix specific problem to not have that type of stuff. But again, the reason that Tubi has been just such a great watch for me lately is because it's just, oh, we don't have the original content. We can only give you classic movies. And it's like, that's all I want to watch is just rewatch these great movies that I love. And then when we get the original movie, let's just everything everywhere all at once. Let's throw that right into the rotation. It's like, hey, perfect. I get the great movie. And then, the hypothetical kids and all that different stuff. You get to start passing stuff down to, I guess, it's not even like your own kids. It's just, could be any, it could be my brothers or sisters' kids if they're like, we get to, because make no mistake, they're not going to be showing them Eddie Murphy movies. So we're going to be the one that has to do it. So like just when just start passing this stuff down. Like those are the movies that live on and the movies that need to be rewatched. So I'm going to rewatch Beverly Hills 4 again. Like I said, it's going to be, I think, classic to me, but I don't feel the need to make it a classic to other people, which is like the final step to a great movie. Hey, look at that. We finally got there with what we were trying to say, which is hopefully the point. So that, I think, we'll definitely cut it off at that point. The To Be rant has got IT saying wrap it up. But like I said, we're going to have a stacked show for you this weekend with just all kinds of great summer sports. Summer League is in full, not full swing. We'll get Vegas Summer League ramping up, but the Salt Lake City, Utah Summer League, Sacramento Summer League have been going, and Team USA practices have been going. So there's a lot to talk about there. Eminem has an album dropping. I don't know. Can we get Sam to listen to the Eminem album and do like a mini draft or something? Maybe that'll be the next solo episode. Who knows? I guess you guys will know if you tune back in this weekend on the Rem and Sam feed. You can follow it on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you can get a podcast. YouTube at Rem and Sam Podcast. We're on Instagram, I believe, just at Rem and Sam. But if you search Rem and Sam Pod, you will definitely find us there too. So any social platform, Rem and Sam Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and have a good night.